let's go ahead and talk some Indians baseball and bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, what's going on?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Hoynesy. And yeah, I said to Chris before the show, I think we can safely say that it is finally over for this Indians baseball team. There will be no playoff baseball this year.
Yeah, they'd have to really kick it into gear here. And they'd have to have a lot of things go right in front of them. So yeah, these last two games have really kind of been body blows to the Tribe.
Time of death, 10:59, September 23rd, 2015, Hoynesy. So if you were writing the Indians' eulogy, even though the season's not technically over, what are you going to remember from this season? What's going to stand out to you the most?
I'll remember kind of the different halves, let's say. The first half, there was a lot of optimism coming into the season. They had, they're kind of a good mix of veterans and young players, or at least they thought was a good mix, and it didn't work out. It was a failure. All of a sudden, they traded, Murphy and Moss and Bourne and Swisher and Zimzinski, all the veterans guys, and they brought up some young guys in the second half, and they played better. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And the thing that I remember on top of that is April. April they were so bad in April, and it's come back to haunt them right now.
Hoynesy, so with all of that being said, as we look at Terry Francona and the job he did this year, how would you grade or rate the job that Terry Francona has done as the manager this season?
I think he's probably about a C+, B-. I think I don't think he had a lot to work with in the first half offensively. Swisher was hurt. Bourne, it obviously hit the wall. It really did. Santana was just terrible throughout most of the year. So they really didn't have a middle of the lineup to be productive, to drive in some runs. I mean, they were hitting David Murphy was hitting cleanup for a period of time, and Brandon Moss was terrible. So they just didn't have a lot of oomph from the offense, and I thought it got better in the second half. But you look back at this rotation and you just think about, boy, they've wasted a lot of good pitching here.
Yeah, and I might be being a little bit too hard on Corey Kluber, and I know that there are some, analytics that are going to tell you that he was probably better than what his win-loss record, ERA, whatever that is. But look, last night, Hoynes, it was a huge game for the Indians. It's a huge series going on right now against the Minnesota Twins, and I know it was his second start coming off that hamstring injury, but this is the reigning AL Cy Young winner. This is supposed to be your front-of-the-rotation guy, and in one of the biggest games of the year, he gives you 3 2/3. He gives up 4 earned runs. I mean, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, that was disappointing, and I think Kluber was, obviously he was disappointed. But, I just don't think he's 100%. I really don't. I think the hamstring, obviously has played into this, and the 18, 19 days of inactivity. He didn't throw any rehab games, because of the minor league season was over, basically. So he just kind of, jumped back into a big league setting, and it hasn't worked. And I guess you give him, credit for going out there, but. I think I don't know if it should have been handled differently. I think he wants to pitch. You got to pitch your number one guy. But, if this injury had happened in August, maybe it would have been a different outcome because, he definitely isn't the same guy that, we've seen for much of the year.
Hoynesy, another guy that the folks will kind of get mad at you if you criticize him. But you mentioned him, Carlos Santana. This is a guy, doesn't have a high average, but he does walk a lot. But his home runs, he had his 17th home run of the year last night. For a team that needs power, how disappointing is it that Carlos Santana just hasn't really provided it for him this year?
It seems like Santana took like 5 months off, doesn't it?
Yes.
And finally he decided to play in September. I mean, last year it was a bad first half and a good second half. So at least you get 80, 90 games out of him. Now you get a month out of this guy, and he's supposed to be your cleanup hitter. I just don't. He just looks. his swing is so big. He's never made an adjustment in his swing from either side of the plate. I mean, he's defenseless basically from the right side of the plate. I know he hit the home run last night. I think that was only his third home run, right-handed, if I'm not mistaken. It's just it's been a disappointing year for him, and I wouldn't be. They've got to seriously consider moving him, I would imagine, to see what they can get this winter.
Hoynes, let's look at that second wild card spot. Right now it's occupied by the Houston Astros, but they've been struggling against the Los Angeles Angels. So you've got the Angels in the mix, of course. You've got the Minnesota Twins in the mix as well, and then Baltimore got in front of the Indians. Do you still think it's the Houston Astros is the most likely team to get that second spot, or do you think one of those teams behind them is playing better baseball right now?
I think the Twins are even though their rotation is just, it's kind of like middle of the road. I think they might be the team. Everyone kept waiting for them to go away the whole season, and they're still here. They had their bad stretch coming out of the break. They're not even that. They don't even really have that good of a record since the All-Star break, but they're hanging in there. They play well. They've got some decent hitters. Mauer looks like he's kind of revitalized his career a little bit. I think this is a dangerous team right now, and they've got a decent bullpen. So I think they, and the Angels, but when the Indians played the Angels, they beat them They beat them up. So it's weird. When you get into this, there's like 5 or 6 teams, and you can throw them in a hat and kind of just blindly pick one of them out, and it wouldn't be any different than the other 4 or 5 that are still in the hat.
Hoynes, looking ahead, has this little run that the Indians put together, has it changed the expectations for 2016, or maybe changed the realities that this team could contend again in 2016?
Well, I think it's given them some it's given them a look at Lindor. Okay, now the mystery's over with Lindor. He's going to be your starting shortstop. Should be perhaps maybe the rookie of the year. You still don't know about third base. Urshela, played a great third base, but he can't stay on the field. So you've got some questions there. I think you have a solid rotation if everyone stays healthy. Anderson is he's going to pitch tonight, and he's really he's been a pleasant surprise. Tomlin, we've seen Tomlin before. The question with him is, can he stay healthy? Can he give you a full season? But I think it has given them some, I think it's proven to the front office that they do have some talent here, but they know they have to add to this club. They cannot go into this next season with this same roster and expect to overtake Kansas City, who, by the way, eliminated them last night from the AL Central. And that's what you want to do. You want to win the Central. You don't want to be messing around in the wild card.
Yeah, we've learned that over the last few seasons. Mixed results there, obviously, for the Indians. All right, Hoynes, thanks for the time.
Thank you.